Hi, I'm Aaron, and today I'm going to tell you a little bit about Ku, a creative game where you craft your own language and use it to create civilizations of AI people. Lowering the fidelity of an otherwise dense system can be a great way to empower both emergence and player creativity. For example, Minecraft takes this and reduces it into this. Similarly, Ku experiments with lowering the fidelity of human behavior by reducing it to a different collection of building blocks: words. Ku is inspired in part by a theory in linguistics that all languages can be simplified to the same set of around 60 words. Yes, that's right, only 60 words. And these words are known as semantic primes. These primes are believed to be the core of human expression. Everything else is built on top of them. Sounds a lot like building blocks to me. So, Ku analogously applies this real-world theory to its much lower fidelity game world by exposing a number of core AI primes to the player. Primes might be nouns like person, place, or thing, verbs like to speak or to walk, or adjectives like big or small. These primes underpin a tiny language speakable by both the player and the AIs in the game. Okay, this is Ku, that is to say, an early prototype. Let's find those primes, those words of power. Last time I checked, the best place to look for words of power is in a magical book. Fortunately, I have one of those. And look, there they are. The astute among you may realize that these primes are currently in the language local to this content, that is to say, English. That's just not going to work for us. I promised that players could grow their own language. Plus, English just isn't very inclusive. It's difficult to pronounce if you're not a native speaker, and computers hate it. Worst of all, speakers bring too many assumptions from their native languages into games. Let's leave the AI creatures be and let them express themselves in a way natural to them instead. So with that being said, let's seed our new language by defining these primes in terms of sounds anyone around the world can pronounce. Okay, so I wanted to find the word for soul, right? Soul in my new language. Let's take a quick look at the collection of sounds available to us. So making a new word is as simple as just taking some sounds and putting them together, right? So how about kasu, right? In order to make this an official binding, we have to use some words of power to tell the world that we're binding kasu to the word for soul. So I wonder if my book here has anything else. There we go. Define prime. This is kind of a recipe of sorts for the world to tell it that we're binding this word, kasu, this new word, to a local. So it looks like first we have to start with this magical prefix that tells the world that the rest of our sentence is going to be a divine commandment or edict. And then we want to bind our new word, kasu, and that's going to be the subject of the sentence, to this local word, which is a word in our local language, in this case English, which is soul, right? And that's going to be the complement of the sentence. And then finally, we have to actually bind these two things together, right? So we have the subject kasu and the complement soul, but we have to say that they're equivalent, that we're binding them. So we're going to glue them together with this verb here, mi, ya. And there we go. Let's do it. All right, so let's see if our codex is updated. And there it is. We've bound soul to kasu. But enough staring at the empty void. Let's actually talk to someone. Oh, look at that. Let's go up and have a chat. Ma kasutaki mu kasu mi ya. Okay. So what's going on here? So that's the subject of the sentence, kasutaki. I don't know what that means. Mu kasu miya. We've already seen a sentence like this before, so kasutaki is kasu. And kasu, that's the word we just defined for soul, so that must mean that kasutaki is a soul. So in a way, it looks like they're introducing themselves. Kasutaki is a soul. So maybe I can introduce myself as well. Ma Aaron mu kasu miya. I am also a soul. So we've defined the core words in our language. We've used it to talk with someone else, an NPC. That leaves one last thing, using the language to create. See, this whole time we've been skirting around Ku's most important feature without saying it directly. Ku's language is not just a language that can be used to talk with NPCs. It's also a programming language. This programming language is what is known as a domain-specific language, which basically means it is specialized to do one thing, namely describe the behavior of people and creatures. So instead of programming a computer, you're programming life. Whenever you prefix a sentence with the word ku, you're signaling to the universe that the rest of the sentence is no ordinary phrase. Instead, it's a magical commandment. Or you could think of it as a line of code. So Ku's life programming language is actually embedded in the broader language used to communicate. This programming language is how you take those building blocks, those primes, and use them to create AI behavior. You do this by combining them, making more words. Except these new words will no longer be tied to English like the primes. Instead, they will only have meaning in the world you create. Earlier, I defined a word to literally mean the same thing as a prime, kasu, soul. But what if you wanted to introduce something like the concept of hunger to your world? There's no prime for hunger. Well, maybe nasaya is an attribute that becomes full when you move and empty when you consume. And maybe a soul dies when it becomes too nasaya, that is to say, too hungry. This can be done because death is a prime in Ku. But just because it's a prime doesn't mean you have to define it. If you don't want there to be death in your world, just never make a word for it. Hooking up the language to the AI engine in this way is something that is not yet present in the prototype you're looking at now, although it is present in the original gameplay prototype. Yes, that's a text adventure. However, because I believe in the concept of a prototype doing one thing well, I have begun to take this concept of tweaking emergent AI societies into separate prototypes and jams in order to iterate more quickly on Ku's requirements in isolation. Feel free to check those out too. So, this interaction, both creating and exploring by speaking, is Ku's core game mechanic. Because Ku's language doubles as both an AI programming language and a language of conversation, players are enabled to use their new words to program the behavior, attributes, and social preferences of their societies, which then talk back using these very same words. Thanks for watching.